Roe versus Wade, voting to overturn Roe versus Wade.
The Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade on Friday. And
hello, my favorite English language learners. It is your favorite English teacher here, Amy Joy. If you watch or read American news at all, you have probably recently heard about the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And this has had significant consequences all over the United States regarding a woman's right to have an abortion. Now, abortion is a super divisive and contentious topic. Divisive and contentious mean causing division or disagreement. And I am not here to share my own beliefs about this issue, but rather teach you 20 advanced words and collocations related to this issue so that you can understand the news and talk about this issue in English a little bit more easily. So let's go ahead and get started. So our first word is abortion. This is a noun and it means the intentional ending of a pregnancy, usually through a medical procedure or taking some medication. Now, a useful synonym for this word is the termination of a pregnancy. You will often hear this collocation, and it just means to terminate or end a pregnancy. So these two words are used interchangeably to talk about ending a pregnancy. Now, like I mentioned, the Supreme Court has recently overturned Roe v. Wade. But what does this actually mean? To overturn means to reverse or change something back. And Roe v. Wade was a court case in 1973 during which the Supreme Court determined that a woman had a right to get an abortion. So this court case protected a woman's right to choose whether or not she remained pregnant. And now in the news, you will often hear these new words, pre-Roe and post-Roe. Pre-Roe refers to the time before this court case. Then we had the time during Roe v. Wade, during which the woman's right to an abortion was protected. And now we are in a post-Roe era, which now refers to the time after Roe v. Wade was overturned, so the time we are living in. Now, I want to highlight some of the reasons that people get an abortion. First is for an unplanned pregnancy. This collocation just is what it sounds like. It's an unexpected or accidental pregnancy. And unplanned pregnancies happen when contraception or birth control fail. Contraception and birth control are synonyms for methods to prevent pregnancy. So here you can see all these different forms of contraception or birth control. Now, another reason that people might want to get an abortion is because of fetal abnormalities. This is a really specific collocation that means there is an unusual condition in the development of the fetus during pregnancy. Now you can see the fetus here. Fetus is a noun and the adjective form is fetal. So that's why we have the collocation fetal abnormality, because the adjective describes the noun abnormality. We also have a really strong collocation called the fetal position. That is when you hold your knees close into your chest, and we often hear this when we go on airplanes and they say in case of an emergency, you might go into the fetal position. Now, as you probably know, there are many different perspectives on abortion and a woman's right to choose whether or not she remains pregnant, and the language surrounding these perspectives is actually really interesting to analyze. So first we have pro-choice. These people believe in a mother's right to choose to be pregnant or choose to terminate a pregnancy. You'll notice that I put a little donkey here because in my last video on politics, you'll remember that donkeys are the symbol for the Democrats, and Democrats tend to believe in a woman's right to choose. They are pro-choice. On the other hand, Republicans, which are represented by the elephant, tend to be pro-life, which means they believe life begins at the moment of conception and that it is morally wrong to end it. And this introduces two other really good collocations. We have the moment of conception and the moment of fertilization. Both of these collocations just refer to as soon as a woman gets pregnant. And you will often hear these collocations when Republicans argue against abortion because they think it is taking away someone's life because they believe life begins at the moment of conception or fertilization. Now, since people who are pro-life believe it is morally wrong to terminate a pregnancy, they believe it is good or moral to carry or bring a pregnancy to term. This is another really common phrase that you will hear in this discussion, and all it means is to allow the fetus to develop and ultimately give birth. So this is really just a fancy phrase to say that you should have the baby. Now, the terms pro-choice and pro-life are really interesting because they are both positive ways at looking at opposite views of the same issue. So you can see that Democrats prefer the term pro-choice because it emphasizes a woman's right to choose, whereas the term pro-life emphasizes saving the life of an unborn child. And these two terms have existed for a really long time, but more recently there has been a new term added to the discussion, and that is pro-forced birth. And this term is often used by the left or by the Democrats to refer to people who are supposedly pro-life. Now you can really feel the difference in connotations between pro-forced birth versus pro-life. And the reason Democrats have begun using this term to describe people who identify as pro-life is because Republicans who claim to be pro-life rarely vote for social welfare, like paid maternity leave, or government-assisted or subsidized childcare, and social services in general. So by using the term pro-forced birth, Democrats are highlighting that Republicans only care about forcing women to give birth, opposed to actually caring for the mother and child after the child is born. And again, I am just here explaining the common language used around this topic to you. I am not suggesting that one is right or wrong, but I think it is really interesting to analyze these word choices and understand the connotations and reasons behind why you might hear one versus the other. So if you are reading a more left-leaning, liberal, progressive, or Democrat piece of media, then you will more likely hear pro-forced birth and pro-choice. And if you are reading a more right-wing or conservative publication, then you are probably going to hear the term pro-life. And this term also introduces another really useful collocation, which is maternity and paternity leave. These terms refer to the time off from work that a new parent gets to bond with a new baby. And maternity is just referring to the mother or the woman, and paternity is referring to the father. So in the past, maternity leave was often exclusively given to the mother, but now we see a little bit more equality where the fathers get paternity leave as well. Now, like I mentioned, abortion is a really divisive and contentious topic, and it also includes a lot of gray areas. A gray area refers to something that has no right or wrong answer, or there is a lot of nuance to it and a lot to consider. It's not black and white, it's not very clear, it is just gray. For example, someone might be pro-life and believe that it is morally correct to carry a pregnancy to term, but they might also believe in exceptions for rape and incest. Now, I know these topics are very sensitive, but they are a big part of this discussion, so I think it's important that you know them. Rape means to force someone to have sex with you, and incest means sex with a family member. And a lot of people agree that situations like this are so traumatic that it's understandable why someone would want to have an abortion and not carry their pregnancy to term. So like I said, this is a really gray area with lots of different nuances or specific exceptions that make it difficult to determine if something is right or wrong. Now, another exception that people might recognize is to be able to have an abortion in the first trimester. Now, as you might know, pregnancies are divided into 3 trimesters, or 3 different 12-week periods to follow the developmental stages of the baby. And since in the first trimester a fetus is not very developed, many people do not really consider it to be a life yet. So while they maybe believe that abortion would be wrong in the 2nd or 3rd trimester when the fetus is more developed, they believe that it is more acceptable during the 1st trimester. Now, abortion falls under the category of reproductive health care, and this is a specific collocation that refers to medical care specifically related to sexual health and pregnancy or reproduction. So if you're reading about abortion in the news, you will often hear the collocation reproductive health care. And the last collocation that I want to leave you with today is the term bodily autonomy. This is a super advanced collocation, and it has only recently become part of everyone's vocabulary, mainly because of the decision about Roe v. Wade. So bodily autonomy refers to one's right to make decisions about their own body. This could be choosing how you dress, whether or not you want to stay pregnant, whether or not you want to take birth control, or even whether or not you want to get tattoos. One of the fundamental beliefs of the left and of Democrats, or people who are pro-choice, believe that we all have a right to bodily autonomy, and we should be able to choose what we do with our bodies. Now, interestingly, you can see the use of this word over time and how it sharply goes up in 2019. This was when people started to realize that Roe v. Wade might be overturned. And so collectively, we all started using the term bodily autonomy much more frequently. Now, I know that this collocation might be a little difficult for you to use or understand, so here are 3 sample sentences using this word. The right to bodily autonomy includes the choice of whether or not to have a baby. Or, having bodily autonomy allows people to make decisions about their own health and well-being. Or, the option to take birth control or not is one example of bodily autonomy. So there you have it, 20 words and advanced collocations to talk about the contentious topic of abortion. Now, again, while I'm not here to debate the morality of abortion, I am really curious what the laws regarding this issue are like in your country and how they might have changed over time. In the United States, in this post-Roe era, it is up to the state governments to determine the laws regarding this issue. So, depending on where you live in the United States, your access to abortion will look very different. So let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you learned something new. If you did, make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel so you can keep improving your English with me. Bye!